As global awareness of environmental, social, and governance issues continues to rise, regulatory bodies are formulating new rules to support the transition towards sustainable business practices. One such regulation is the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRD. Hi, my name is Dr. Shruti Sharma, and today I'm going to simplify CSRD to you. The Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive is European Union legislation effective from 5th January 2023 that requires EU businesses, including qualifying EU subsidiaries of non-EU companies, to disclose their environmental and social impact and how their environmental, social, and governance, which are ESG actions, affect their businesses. Now, the goal of the CSRD is to provide clarity that will help investors, analysts, consumers, and other stakeholders better evaluate EU companies' sustainability performance and the related business impacts and risks. Introduced as part of the European Commission's Sustainable Finance Package, the CSRD notably expands the scope, sustainability disclosures, and reporting requirements of its predecessor, the NFRD, which is Non-Financial Reporting Directive. CSRD reporting is based on the concept of double materiality. Organizations must disclose information on how their business activities affect the planet and its people, and how the sustainability goals, measures, and risks impact the business's financial health. For example, in addition to requiring an organization to report its energy usage and cost, CSRD requires them to report emission metrics that detail how the energy use impacts the environment, targets for reducing that impact, and information on how achieving those targets will affect the organizational finances. All CSRD disclosures must be publicly available, and the CSRD mandates third-party auditing of all disclosures for accuracy and completeness. Now, a question is, why was the CSRD introduced? The European Parliamentary Research Service identified several shortcomings in 2021 after evaluating information that the NFRD collected. These shortcomings included a lack of consistent and comparable data that might negatively impact sustainability investments and cause an increase in data costs for stakeholders. Which companies must comply with the CSRD? Now, the answer is by 2028, all of the following organizations or undertakings need to comply with the CSRD. The directive is estimated to increase the number of organizations affected from around 11,000 to 50,000. For EU-based organizations and non-EU organizations with EU-based subsidiaries or securities on EU-regulated markets, the pathway to more sustainable practices will be unavoidable. As well as organizations currently in the NFRD scope, the CSRD will impact all EU-based organizations. Now, when must companies comply with the CSRD? CSRD compliance is being phased in Form 2024 through 2029 and is based primarily on NFRD legacy or company size. Starting in financial year 2024, which means the reporting in 2025, compliance is mandated for organizations already mandated to comply with the NFRD. This includes all organizations listed in an EU-regulated market with 500 or more employees. Starting in financial year 2025, which means reporting in 2026, compliance is mandated for large undertakings, not already mandated to comply with the NFRD. Now, starting in financial year 2026, which means reporting in 2027, compliance is mandated for small and medium-sized undertakings listed on EU-regulated market. Now, starting in financial year 2028, which means the reporting in 2029, compliance is mandated for certain third country undertakings. In 2022, European Financial Reporting Advisory Group EFRAG released its first set of European Sustainability Reporting Standards ESRS. The ESRS outline the metrics company must report and how to report them to comply with CSRD disclosure requirements. There are 12 ESRS in all, which detail disclosures and metrics across sustainability matters in 4 categories. The first is cross-cutting, which has general principles and general disclosures. The second is environmental, which has climate change, pollution, water and marine resources, biodiversity, and ecosystem, resource use and circular economy. The third is social, which talks about own workforce, workers in value chain, affected communities, consumers and users. And the last one is governance, which is the business conduct. Now, cross-cutting reporting is required of all organizations governed by the CSRD, while ESG reporting is mandatory for those organizations that consider them material. In December 2023, the ESRS were published in the official journal of the EU as legally binding. All CSRD reporting must meet the standard of double materiality. This means organizations must report on both of the following, which is impact materiality and the financial materiality. The impact materiality is the impact their business have or are likely to have on sustainability matters, for example, carbon emissions, workforce diversity, respect for human rights. The financial materiality deals with the impact that sustainability matters have or are likely to have on the organizational finances, for example, cash flows, risk, access to funding, and others. Now, most organizations conduct a double materiality assessment as a first step towards CSRD compliance. Now, CSRD has certain specific disclosures, which is organizations need to share data and provide management commentary on various topics, including sustainability policy, which is the first, and due diligence. Companies need to outline specific policies pertaining to several sustainability matters and describe due diligence for tracking and enforcing these policies. Now, these sustainability matters might include environmental protection, treatment of employees, management and corporate board diversity, social responsibility, human rights, anti-corruption, and anti-bribery. Now, the target metrics and transition plans, companies must share their sustainability targets, progress towards achieving them, and how those targets support a transition to a sustainable economy and achieve net zero emissions by 2050 as EU laws require. Now, in CSRD, we need to focus on the following things in your value chain. Companies must disclose their due diligence process for identifying and mitigating the social and environmental impacts in the value chain and supply chain. Now, sustainability risks, companies must document the risk posed by various sustainability matters such as climate change and fossil fuel dependence. This includes detailing the resilience of their business model to these risks and the potential impact on stakeholders, shareholders, business operations, and the financial results. The CSRD requires a third party to audit and assure the sustainability information and data included in the report. Initially, compliance will require the auditor to provide limited assurance, mainly based on the organization's own statements. However, within the next 3 years, the CSRD will introduce a requirement for reasonable assurance, relying on the auditor's examination and understanding of the organization's operations, processes, and controls. Now, who defines CSRD reporting standards? The EFRAG is responsible for the new directive standards on behalf of the European Commission. A private association financed primarily by the EU, EFRAG advises the European Commission on adopting international reporting standards for EU legislation. As soon as the standards are set, EFRG provides companies with the specific reporting requirements in the ESRS. The CSRD requires EU member states to have an investigative and compliance entity in place to impose effective, proportionate, and dissuasive penalties. These penalties are based on several factors, including the gravity and duration of the breach and the financial standing of the company. Individual member states determine CSRD non-compliance penalties based on relevant state laws. Every company should stay up to date on any changes in legislation and obtain legal advice to ensure compliance and to avoid investigations and potential penalties. To comply with the CSRD, companies need to gather and consolidate large volumes of data. A strong ESG data foundation can help ease reporting, make CSRD disclosures auditable, and help organizations be better prepared for the changes coming into effect from 2024 onwards. The EU CSRD, which is Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, is indeed significant for Indian companies, especially those engaged in business activities within the European Union or with EU-based partners and stakeholders. However, it is important to note that while the CSRD presents opportunities for Indian companies, it also entails challenges such as the need for resource allocation, capacity building, and adaptation to evolving reporting standards. Overall, embracing sustainability reporting in line with CSRD can be a strategic move for Indian companies looking to thrive in the global marketplace. Thank you.